Good evening, chaps. Well, that's a good start. The video, that was even better. The video no one asked for. Whoever asked for. Self-deprecation. I finished watching something the other day, a couple of days ago, and I thought to myself, I'm not really happy with the presentation as such. And then as I was setting up my phone and getting the things in question, open, the drink from the fridge, I thought, I wish I could be like one of these proper YouTubers who go, right, I'm here to look at this, and then boom, we get clips from the show, and I can use music, and it would look better than just some idiot wearing an old Star Wars shirt. I got this when the Revenge of the Sith came out. Oh wow, and it still fits me. But anyway, Battlestar Galactica. Those in the know, I to say what friends I have, know that I have been for most of my life, for my sins, almighty Battlestar Galactica fan, and that is to say the original Battlestar Galactica. When I was about 7, 8-ish, I remember watching what is known as the movie, or the first episode, Saga of a Star World, as is known in the box set anyway, with my parents. And it's funny how when you're little and innocent to the ways of the world, how things change from then. For instance, I still remember being sort of enthralled by the destruction of Caprica, and by association the colonies, the Cylons swooping over the city centre and blowing up buildings, and the flag of the colonies burning, and on the Galactica the crew all solemn faced and crying and just shocked, and you can hear in the background audio people going, well, we need water on Pisons, and whatever it is, and then I got traumatised a little by the sight of the people in the honeycombs at the end in the Ovian mines, being fed upon by the Ovian creatures. And then you're 30 odd and you watch it and you think to yourself, my God, the attack on Caprica barely lasts 5 minutes, and the Ovian creature is quite obviously some kind of puppet. And it was just a sign of like a mummified body covered in cobwebs. It was just a moment that stayed with me. And I was 7 or 8 in the early 90s, so this was the only Galactica we had. And then I remember watching it on TV, episodes like Gun on Ice Planet, Zero chiefly, and really I don't have much recollection of the latter half of the series, with bottle episodes as they're known nowadays, like Murder on the Rising Star, The Hand of God, Take the Celestia, The Man with 9 Lives, even Greetings from Earth and Experiment in Terror. I don't have any real memory, and yet I only seem to remember the first half of the series when poor Serena gets killed. Spoiler alert. And then of course there was talk of it coming back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Richard Hatch did that Second Coming trailer. He mortgaged his house or something to do it, and he got the late George Murdoch back as Dr. Salak, and there's going to be a lot of lates in this. The late John Colicos as Boltar, and it looked like that the plot of the show was going to be Apollo, now commander of the Galactica, because obviously Lorne Greene is no longer with us, says, well, basically maybe there's no Earth, we'll go back and retake the colonies, which is an interesting idea, because I would have thought after, say, 30 Yarwans, as they would say in Galactica first, Cylon Empire has been pursuing the fleet, haven't they? In theory, anyway, gradually mopping up, like, they say, like the episode, or was it the Lost Warrior, when Apollo crashes and he finds this colony planet that is got a bad guy who uses what must have been a shot down Cylon, who's nicknamed Red Eye, as like his enforcer. And somebody said, well, you realise, somebody said online somewhere, can't find where you realise that after Apollo goes, that's probably it. The Cylons are pursuing the fleet, and they're raison d'etre is to kill any humans they come across. They're going to come across that colony and kill Bella and the little boy whose name always forgets, because names in Galactica get a bit silly sometimes. So anyway, I like the second comings all over YouTube and places. They do use Independence Day music as theme music, and it is a little bit much in places, the acting. But it was a tester, as a marker. This was Richard Hatch saying, this is Galactica. And it would have been interesting, even if it only lasted a season, because the CGI would have been, polished, and they were using the original Galactica, the ship, and stuff. And then of course it lost out to the reimagining. And I've watched the first season, I didn't mind it, but when you grow up with something, it's like I grew up watching all manner of stuff because of my dad, and I like the TV series Mission Impossible, and I've seen the first film, but I've not bothered with the rest. And my friend goes, well, it's stupid, the TV series is what it is, of the 60s, whatever, and the movies are better and all this stuff. And it's like, well, I kind of like watching Peter Graves, Martin Landau, Barbara Bain, Greg Morris, and Peter Lupus do their thing, Yeah, and it's the same with Galactica. The trouble is, the reimagining became this phenomena, statement on the reality, Oracle and stuff like that. And the majority of fans, it seemed, and still are so fantastically derisive for the original Galactica. And, there was a Star Trek forum I was on until a year or so ago, because I've just had enough of it, that in its sci-fi it had a sci-fi section, non-Star Trek sci-fi, like Star Wars, but it had its own Galactica subsection. And the person responsible would always refer to always make comments about the original being camp and stuff. Now, I'm not saying the original is not perfect by any stretch. There have been moments I've just shook my head. And it's been accused of a Star Wars rip-off. There are faint similarities in my head, but I've never really seen much in it. I mean, the trouble is, everyone looks at the first episode, they don't really look at the rest of the series. And the trouble with the series is they got humdrum by budget. I've read conflicting stories, but it looks like first we got the movie, which, as you see here, I've got here on my on an individual Blu-ray disc, and it says on the back there, the movie that launched a phenomenon, Air3 Legend has a beginning. And until I got this earlier this year for a couple of quid, I had never seen the movie. I've only ever seen the TV presentation, which has all the Serena on Caprica, and yet the movie, you don't get that Serena on camera thing. The attack on Caprica starts, and Serena's just another woman running around with a kid who has a Daggett. Crash sidebar. Throughout the course of the series, we see that on those 220 ships, and there are 7,000 humans, and so on and so forth, and all manner of things have managed to escape the Holocaust. 3 aggro ships, which I would have thought are so slow, a prison barge, the casino slash leisure craft, the Rising Star, and so on. And Starbuck in the penultimate episode finds a long lost girlfriend who is apparently going out with at the time of the colonies, despite the fact in the first episode you see that he has Athena and then Cassiopeia. Question: how is it in all those ships there was not one flipping stray Daggett instead of that stupid puppet we had to have? So anyway, the movie involves the Ovians a lot more, and it has Boltar killed. And I do that because in the TV, apparently later on they said we'll keep him, so they cut the scene from the movie is different therefore. So Boltar stays as he does all through the series more or less, even though as characters go, he's a bit perplexing. This is a man who sold out the human race for extermination. And he's played deliciously by John Colicos. Somebody said you used to have to scrape him off the ceiling, so enthusiastic. So the movie comes out, it's released in Sensurround in some places, like the film Earthquake, which also featured Lorne Greene, and coincidentally the Earthquake sequences is used as effects in the first episode of Galactica 80. And then Universal say, could we have a series please? And Glenn A. Larson says, yeah, sure, in a year's time. Which would have been, I assume, 79, because this came out 78. and they said no, and they rushed it into production. Richard Hatcher said about this, and Larson, and it's a one. And the trouble is, early on, Galactica spent big bucks on the looks of it. It had a budget, and the thing is, what people that deride the show fail to acknowledge sometimes is that for all its faults now, this show was awfully popular back in the day, and it was incredible in terms of its production values for a show, sci-fi show. It was essentially a blockbuster every week, at least it felt like it. And it is funny how the series feels endless in a way, because of how each episode is, but especially early on when you have two-part episodes like Gun on Ice Planet Zero, and then The Living Legend midway, and you can sort of see along the way how things gradually change. For one thing, we get the same effects of the Vipers every episode, and they sometimes mess about with it. The continuity sometimes is a bit pear-shaped. Like, I think in Gun on Ice Planet Zero, you see Starbuck. You see they reused the scramble moment from the movie where the lights go red. He's playing the card game. The lights go red, and therefore there's a long shot of everyone flying off from the table, and Starbuck shuffling his qubits. And they reuse it in Ice Planet Zero, despite the fact he has already been seen, sort of like, and his hair is short. Benedict, they filmed the sequence. I don't know. And so, or Living Legend, I think it's part 2, when it's meant to be a scene on the Pegasus, and I think Kane says, positive shield now like a Dharma on his head, and you get a very brief clip of the Galactica bridge with a Dharma on it, so it's just inserted in there. It's little things. I mean, I've been far too observant for my own good. I've got some kind of OCD about stuff growing up, and it reaches a halfway point, and you sort of get the impression, reading what you know about the show's production, that things are drawn tight, hence the bottle shows. And the theory is that the second season would have been horrific in a way. It would have made Galactica 80. It would have been Galactica 80-ish in terms of its budget and sort of Buck Rogers. It doesn't seem that this show is destined to last longer than a season. It might well have done had things been slightly different, if they hadn't been doing that kind of show every week. Gun on Ice Planet Zero, Planet of the Gods, Lost Planet of the Gods, when they sent a second unit over to Egypt, and little things. And the effects might have been a little bit better, but I wonder, I think this show had been handled differently. I mean, apparently Mork and Mindy finished this show off. It was put opposite it or after it or whatever. And I think it would have been interesting to see this show last 5 years, which would be, 83. And if it would have followed Buck Rogers in the sense that, Buck Rogers has that Space Rockers episode, and you do see disco effectively in Galactica in a couple of episodes, like War of the Gods with Sheba and Apollo on the dance floor. And I find it interesting what ifs, even something like Battlestar Galactica, and I like to think that they were trying to move away from the Cylons, hence the Eastern Alliance, the space Nazis, the unessential inspiration for Spaceballs, and mate, signs they're getting close to Earth. And you're kind of sure that they put more of Earth into the first season to keep, to sort of make the powers that be go, hey, look, we're almost there. And especially in the last episode, Hand of God, where you see the Apollo 11 capsule. So the show wraps that up. I mean, the thing is, I heard different things. Like, I'm sure I've read online that they were cancelled before they started filming Tate the Celestra, the penultimate episode. And yeah, Anne Lockhart said in the interview on the documentary on the box set, we all went off on holiday or whatever, thinking we'll be coming back. So I don't know how it worked, but either way it ended. And then there was a massive letter campaign. And in those days, actually, something like that could work. And Glenn A. Larson was asked, would you mind doing a new show? And it was going to involve it was going to involve the core original characters, Apollo, Sheba, Starbuck, Boomer, etc., and shed the many others. I mean, if you look at it on the Cryo, Galactica has a fantastically extended cast. Apart from the 3 main stars who are credited in the titles, Benedict, Starbuck, Hatch, Apollo, Longreen, Adama. You've got Boxy, you've got Athena, you've got Boomer, you've got Jolly, you've got Sheba, you've got Green Bean from time to time, you've got Dr. Sallet, Dr. Rilke, Cassiopeia, of course. How could I forget Cassie? And probably a few people I've missed along the way. And maybe get Fred Astaire back. And the second season, you know, they were going to kill Sheba off, I think, or Athena, and there was an interesting idea, human Cylons. Anyway, it went a little bit awry, and we got Galactica 1980. That I definitely do remember watching when I was little. There was only ever 10 episodes, and it was horrific. If you were watching the original series and you got told there's going to be a new Galactica, and the first 3 episodes are titled as Galactica 1918, and the last 7 are titled as Battlestar Galactica. And my DVD behind me on the shelf says, Galactica 1918, and it says the original show's last season. Well, it's not, and it's part of the Blu-ray, which, you know, and it says the complete original series, and it's not the original series. I always feel faintly surreal watching Galactica 80, especially after going through the original series like I had done, because I bought this box set back in March, and it's Galactica but not. They've abandoned, it seems, the whole time measurement, so hours are centaurs and minutes are centons and seconds are microns, say, and a year is a yaran. And, you know, Adama is saying from the off in the first episode, 30 years later. Which, by the way, if they saw the Apollo 11 thing in Hand of God, which is the last episode set in filmed in 1979, 30 years later would be 2009, wouldn't it? 99999. My math sometimes is a bit tricky. And yet, they turn up at Earth 11 years later, so that's clue number 1. Now, Larson, it seems, retrospectively, was not mad on 80, and I think he wasn't entirely happy making the show anyway. Longreen was keen to return, so he got a bearded Adama. Boomer's in a couple of episodes, he's a colonel now. Ty's gone, Sheba's gone, Apollo's gone, Starbuck's gone, Athena's gone, Jolly, Cassiopeia. It's implied they've died. And then to make it worse, we've got Barry Van Dyke as Dylan. You kind of get the impression he's Starbuck's kid, but apparently he's not. And then you've got Troy, which apparently is the proper name for Boxy. And you get a nice little link in the first episode. I don't know how my parents spell me, that kind of bullshit. And then you have to go off all that. And anyway, Galactica 80 became a children's educational program. The effects were as dicey. You got a lot of reusable clips from the series, and the Vipers were different. They had 2 seats, and even the ones that were meant to be 1 seat, the cockpit canopy was different, and they had introduced this red flashing light, so you get a shot from, of them in the cockpit, and there's this big red glue. The effects in places were embarrassing. I think it's the 3rd episode, the last part of Galactica discovers Earth, and Savia, played by the fantastic Richard Lynch, who was always a legend at playing, evil characters, like in his 3 Starsky and Hutch episodes. He's in a Viper and he fires his lasers, and for the start the lasers are this really weak looking white beam, whereas in the series it's red, and he blows up a Jeep. And I say blows up because the explosion looks like it's imposed over it, and then in the next shot of the Viper looking forward, there's still a Jeep in front of the Viper, so it hasn't even blown up. And then you've got the small lasers, or whatever they are, and there's the episode, which one is it, Space Croppers? No, Spaceball, where the kids are, and Jeremy Brett's in it, who's the best representation of Sherlock Holmes. And Dylan and Troy are flying in their Viper, and it abruptly runs out of fuel, and he sabotaged it. And for the shots of the Viper stuck in space, they've literally just frozen the image of a flying Viper. I mean, every time you go, it's just like that. It's annoying. And then, how do they get out to fix the Viper in their spacesuits? How do they get their spacesuits on? Because they put on different helmets and actual suits. So are the suits under their seats and they somehow sort of fidget it on, or are the regular helmets able to sort of put a visor on quick long enough for that? You know what I mean? It's like things like that bugged the hell out of me as a kid and still do. You got Jamie and you got the bloody kids, so you of course can jump high. What bothered me watching it this time around was that in the series, these humans are far advanced and really intelligent compared to us anyway. Now, fair enough, they turn up at Earth in 80, and apparently Earth is quite primitive, and the 13th tribe have long forgotten where they come from. But it's the fact that Troy and Dylan spend most of these episodes walking around going, what's a beaut? You know, they don't know the expressions, they don't know the slang, and yet there's a lot of slang and stuff in the original series. Like, I rewatched the movie after I finished, and you know, Starbuck has certain expressions that are Earth-like. Now, I mean, the beauty of Galactica is that it was laced with original terminology. You know, your centaurs and your microns and the mythology I always liked about Galactica. But they turn up on Earth, and yet they, for intelligent species, they seem to have a really hard time assimilating to Earth. Now, I know they're down there to get Earth, you know, to catch up, to face the Cylons, but they're just like, oh, what's this, what's that? And they have a little thing that they keep, you know, and it's their language. You know, we'll have whatever current denomination is a fail and all this stuff. And now I credit to Kent, McCord, Troy and Barry, Van Dyke, Dylan. They do seem to try, and from what I understand, McCord will not tolerate any mention of Galactica 1980. As for Barry Van Dyke, I don't know. And the last episode, The Return of Starbuck, is a peculiar one in a way. It's great to see. It's the best rated episode on IMDb. He's got an 8. And Starbuck is engage it. He crash lands on the planet. Now the thing is, you know, there's this really moving moment where he's saying to Boomer, "Look, I'll see you later," and both of them seem to have accepted that Starbuck's not coming back. And yet this has happened many times in the original series. You know, Starbuck has to crash on that on the planet and the Young Lords, and is seen off by Boomer, and Boomer goes back, and him and, you know, Apollo go get him. And even when Starbuck crashes by himself in a long patrol, Dharma ends up sending Boomer and Apollo. And when Apollo crashes in a Lost Warrior, even though he's by himself, Starbuck and Boomer go after him. So, you know, in this, it's like, well, it looks like I'm going to have to crash land Boomer. Oh. And Boomer's got tears, right? And he's like, oh, it's been fun knowing you, Starbuck, kind of thing. And so I was like, hey, look, I can look after myself. And you think, this is it. And Starbuck, as soon as he lands, he's walking all over this planet and finds the crash Cylon Raider, and, you know, and then all of a sudden, you know, and Boomer goes back and he says, "Commander, we gotta go and get Starbuck," and say, "No, we can't stop the Galactica because we're under constant attack," kind of thing. And it's like, shit, he's by himself. He rebuilds a Cylon like you do, and then this woman turns over anywhere, and that actress who was always in Glen A. Larson stuff, like Magnum, and he's managed to rebuild some sort of something out of the Viper and Cylon raids, and he's got 2 seats in it, and the new Cylons have landed to come and get him, and he puts her in it. She's pregnant with what turns out to be that weird Dr. C, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not coming with you, am I?" Well, why not? He kills the Cylons, and then the last shot you see is him, and you get this is the backstory why Starbuck's not in the show, and you think, well, there's a plot hole here. Those 3 Cylons that attacked Starbuck at the end of the episode, they didn't just materialise out of thin air, they surely landed in a Cylon Raider. So why didn't Starbuck just get on the Cylon Raider and do his best to catch up with the fleet? Come on, people. But I like to pretend Galactica 80 never happened, in more ways than one. And this brings us to the DVDs. Now I got it's all in one, and as I say, you got that. And I do like the cover art, because it's the poster for Saga for Star World. And the discs look quite nice and all this stuff. And what I like is that they've put the deleted scenes for each episode on that disc, rather than what they did in the DVD box. There's all in one go, and and what I like though is that they're not necessarily deleted scenes, and some outtakes of stuff that you can hear. Richard Hatch says Jesus when he almost gets ran over, and greetings from Earth, and you know, you got Anne Lockhart sat in a Viper, I think for fire in space maybe, and she's going, am I launching or am I not launching, or am I already in space, and stuff like that. The tricky thing about the menu is that there's nothing on it. If you don't know your symbols apart from play, you don't know which ones. And the special features I think are awfully lacking for what is Blu-ray. This is Battlestar Galactica, a show that started to make great many things, and the special features are just the special features from the DVD. With some things I've gone like Blu-ray, like say, I mean, since Disney took over Star Wars, for instance, the Blu-ray is the best ones to get if you want special features. You know, Force Awakens and The Last Jedi have 2 discs, and you know, my Rogue One DVD does. Whereas, you know, somebody got me Solo before I had a chance to get it on Blu-ray on DVD, and it's just 1 disc, and there's no special features on it. And the same with the new Star Trek films. Initially, you could get one, and it would have been nice if they updated the special features for the disc. You know, I mean, this came out in 2014, so they could have done something for whatever anniversary. 2014 would have been the 35th or whatever. Or just something to brighten up. And then, you know, I don't like Galactica 1980 in comparison, but you know, I like, they put, you know, it says Galactica 80, and I like, it's the concept art, really. And you only got 3 discs, obviously, and the box set doesn't look too bad on the back here. The thing is, what I like is that they try and make Galactica sometimes more epic, especially Galactica 80, and there's a picture online you can see of another box set for Galactica 80 that has a Dharma on that one side, but there's no special features at all, not even like TV spots. And it would have been nice to have at least something on the last disc or the first disc or whatever about Galactica 80, even if it's just a video of Glenn A. Larson back in the day, because he's no longer with us, going, I don't know what I was thinking, I was drunk, or on location thing with Dirk Benedict or something, or you know, Barry Van Dyke saying I'm the only one that will even acknowledge I was in it, kind of thing. You know, just something. Didn't have to be much. It just feels like, I mean, I got this second hand from CEX in England, who flogs second hand stuff for the most part. It's meant to be a trading thing. And I got this for 20 quid, and the full price of it I think is 60 quid. Something like that. And it's like, you know, I'm not always bothered about special features and stuff. Some things I think are costly because of special features and that, or the fact it's Blu-ray, of course, and it's nothing. There's nothing to it. It's rather vanilla for my taste. I'm not expecting a plethora, but I'm willing to bet the remake, the reimagining, has enough special features to drown the original show twice over. Personally, for me, it's a little bit of a shame. Like I say, Galactica 80 is what it was, but there's nothing. It just feels like it's all second thoughts or Universal, and there's somebody that was doing special effects, new updated effects. There's a video on YouTube for Living Legend CGI if you're careful to have a look. They had a lot more up. They updated the attack on the colonies involved. You see a Pluton beam smashing, you see other battle stars elsewhere, you see this, that and the other. And it's like, if they can remaster Star Trek, they can remaster the original Galactica, I'd buy the hell out of it. That's not to take away from the special effects people, but like I said, after a while they were using the same shots for all manner. And, you know, this guy updated the explosion early on Gone on Ice Planet Zero when the commando team's just landed, and a Cylon raider comes to attack, and Starbuck blows it up with the laser on the land ram. And the explosion in the TV episode is a very brief shot of when the Cylon base star in Saga of a Starbell blows up over Carolon. It gets this really sort of psychedelic yellow-orange effect, and then it all blows up. And you see, if you pause it, you will see the base star. Whereas this guy, he edited it, so you see the raider come in and the laser blow it out of the sky. Otherwise, in closing, just in comparison, unfortunately it's been a little bit knackered since I got it in the moves of the house. But this is the original series DVD, and you get and I like it. This is the comparison. There's more discs, I think, than Blu-ray without looking. And like I said, the special effects are saying, but the only problem with the DVD box set is that, unlike the Blu-ray, Living Legend is over 2 discs. So you have to get up halfway. There is the Mission Galactica, which is the Living Legend and Fire in Space released or some kind of thing. And in comparison, this is Galactica 80 on DVD, and as you can see, rather sparing. You know, the original Battlestar Galactica's final season, and it's called Conquest of the Earth. And it says it was a must-have for any Battlestar Galactica collection, and it's 2 discs compared to the Blu-ray's 3, curiously enough. So, like I say, it'd be nice if there was something proper for Galactica, but I'm not holding my breath. The 40th anniversary came and went, and Richard Hatch is gone now, and I can't imagine Dirk Benedict's too bothered around Lockhart. So, and Glenn A. Larson isn't with us, and they were talking still, Bryan Singer, doing a remake of Galactica, or rebooting it, and it would be more in line with the original show, but I don't know, as much as I'd like to see the original Galactica in CGI, that is to say, the ship itself. And that's the thing, I think with the reimagining series, I know that they wanted to make it different, you know, they all have proper names, you know, Leah Dharma and whatever. Whereas Galactica, the original show, always felt like it was in its own world, which I liked. If they, you know, anything from the original series should have been kept. The Battlestar herself, I think in the reimagining series, with the modern day effects, she would have looked pretty special. Just my 2 cents. So there you go. If you've managed to watch all of this and not despaired, thank you very much.